There you go, Chair.
Bryn, I got the back end of that. I don't believe we have, sorry. I was just looking through the participants.
Was that translation? No, we don't. We don't have translators on Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays. Apologies. Nothing we can do about it unless we spend a bit of money. And I don't think Okay.
Yeah, I think we do need to start spending money on the subject.
Okay.
It's not really good enough, not acceptable.
No, we're aware of the Wednesday thing. I think we've actually changed our meeting dates, so future meetings aren't going to be held on a Wednesday. I think we've shunted them over.
We've moved meetings in 2025 to Thursday morning, so we make sure we get translation.
That's the what we've done, Bryn, to accommodate that. Yeah, apologies for today. Good afternoon, everybody. Learning and Skills Committee, Wednesday, 11th of September, 24, 2 p.m. start. Members, can I have any apologies, please?
We have apologies, Chair, from Dr. Richard Jones, Director of Education, and Anne Wynne-Orrells, Head of Service. They're both on ESTIN training.
Okay. Any other apologies? Thank you. Move on to item 2 on the agenda, and that's disclosure of interest. Catherine.
As the Chair of Governors at East Kilbride Life, I need to excuse myself from that item.
Thank you very much. Just so that you know, how are we going to handle that? We'll ask you to leave the meeting and we'll give you a call to come back in when it's completed.
Yeah, I think I get moved to backstage by Kath, don't I?
Is that correct, Kath? Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
great
I
stuff.
can move.
Thank you,
Catherine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, for that. And similarly, declaration of party whip, if there's any. No. It'll take us on to item 4, which is the minutes of the meeting of the 15th of July 24. They're attached to our pack. Any comments in relation to those minutes? Gareth, Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, not in relation to the minutes, Chair, but just following on when we had the discussion about school budgets, we did request that we should be sent a copy or the documentation from one of the deep dives that they've done on secondary schools.
Yeah,
I'm not sure we haven't had that yet, and my understanding is they're going to do it straight after when they finish them all at Christmas. Well, that's too late for the budget process in my mind.
Yeah, no, that's a very relevant point, and we'll certainly chase that down. Okay, thank you, Gareth, for bringing us that. In relation to the minutes, are you all happy that they're signed and as a true and correct record at some future point? Yep. Good. Thank you very much. That takes us. Sorry, somebody in the background there.
No, that was me sneezing, I'm afraid.
Oh right, sorry.
Apologies.
No, it's fine. I've actually got a pinging in my ear as well. Is everybody else picking that up? No, it's just me there. So that takes us on to us item 5, Scarborough Cynllaeth. We're just going to wait for Catherine to be moved across.
I've moved Catherine backstage, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, it's to receive and consider the Scarborough Cynllaeth proposal paper. Again, in our document pack. I'm going to go to Councillor Peat first if he wants to introduce this. Otherwise, Marianne will take us through this paper for our consideration. Councillor Peat.
Thanks, Gwenville. This is the next of the papers relating to the Llanbathin catchment review. If you'll recall, we dealt with the paper around Llangedwin earlier in the year. This follows through on the recommendation within that catchment review to bring forward papers to consult on the potential closure of Scarborough Cynllaeth. And I'm going to now invite Marianne to take you through the technical aspects and the reasons why officers have recommended to me that we take forward a paper and a formal consultation on that proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Peat. Prananda, Marianne, I'm going to leave it in your hands. Assume you'll take us through the paper and give us an opportunity for questions after. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you for having us here today. So we're presenting a report to Cabinet on the 17th of September, requesting approval to start the consultation process regarding the proposal to close Ysgol Llaeth. So the paper you have in front of you is a draft Cabinet report and the associated papers, so the option appraisal, the draft community impact assessment and the integrated impact assessment. And I'm assuming you've all read the papers, but I will give you a quick synopsis of where we are. So we had a Llanfyllin catchment review, which recommended a preferred way forward. It did include a recommendation around the closure of Ysgol Llaeth. What we've done since then, as part of the school organisation code, we're required to develop a proposal paper, which is in front of you here. Ysgol Llaeth is a small English medium school right at the top of the county. So it's our furthest north school. It has 26 pupils currently on roll, and the information is there in the papers. You can see from the historical pupil numbers section there that the numbers have remained fairly stagnant over the last few years, so roughly in the 30s, high 20s. We've got projections which indicate that they're going to be relatively stagnant again going forward as well. So the proposal, the paper includes the reasons for the case for change, and the main challenges facing Ysgol Llaeth as we see it are low pupil numbers. And I will remind everybody once again that the Welsh Government's definition of a small school is anything below 91. So I think this is now one of our smallest schools. A high budget share per pupil, so the cost per pupil is significantly higher than the Powys average at 8,311. And combined age classes, so the school has a two-class structure with a number of year groups across in those two classes, and then the impact then on the teaching and learning for those children is a challenge. Within the papers then you'll have the options appraisal, so we've considered a number of options, and I'm sure that you'll have questions around those options, and we have concluded that the preferred option is to close Ysgol Llaeth from the 31st of August 2025 with Powys-based pupils to transfer to their closest school in Powys. And for the majority of the Ysgol Llaeth pupils, the nearest school is Llanrhaeadr and Mochnant. We've got a number of reasons why that is our preferred, or that is the proposal. We have then included a draft community impact assessment with information received gratefully from the school. And I'm going to point out here, and I think from all the recent rural school proposals that we've taken forward, I think this one is the one where the vast majority of pupils are transferring to their nearest school, to their local school. So it is really much the pupils of Ysgol Llaeth are from Llansilin and the surrounding areas. In other school proposals, we've seen pupils coming in from other areas, etc. But this is really a Llansilin school. And as such, I think the draft community impact assessment concludes that should there be no school in Llansilin, that there is a significant impact on the community from the loss of a school. We have in the paper as well, we have got information around the resource implications, and I'm sure there'll be questions around that as well. And I think I'll leave it there in terms of a quick synopsis of the recommendation, and I'll open for questions. On the call, I have Eric Towns, our Senior School Improvements Officer. I've got Nancy from Finance, and Vic Mary is around as well. So that's the team for this afternoon. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Diolch, Marianne. Councillor Allen, followed by Councillor Lucy.
Pnawn da, diolch ar Gwynfor. Pnawn da, Marianne a tîm I gyd. Just quickly, Councillor Roberts, could you talk us through the financial savings, how that's arrived at, and also starting off by saying what the delegated fund delegated sum is to that school, and also any ancillary costs around the school as well, which are regular and yearly annual costs. Thank you.
Councillor Pete, I think that was directed at you.
Yeah, it was sent to me, but I will pass you across to Mary, because I know the work on this is constant ongoing. And I'd welcome either Mary or Nancy to come forward with the latest position on this relative to budget discussions that have been happening.
Thank you, Councillor Pete. Is it okay to come in there, Chair?
Yeah, go on, Nancy.
Yeah, so at the moment in the paper in front of you today, you've got the 23-24 information in regards to the delegated budget. That was due to the timing really of the report and the published information being done by Welsh Government. In with regards to the updated for 24-25 delegated budget share, it stands at 200,000 for Ysgol Broken Life, and that's a budget share per pupil of £8,000.
Yes, I was wondering how, and you've got to say savings.
Oh, the same.
Financial
Sorry,
savings.
Councillor Allen.
How
Sorry.
do you arrive at those, and sort of how much of that 200k would be passported with the children to whichever school they go to?
So the savings have been calculated as set out in the report, assuming Llanrydder and Mocknant is the closest as a receiving school for those pupils. So the modelling has been done purely on that basis in the paper today here. So what we would do is we would look at the current delegated budget for both that school and Ysgol Broken Life, and then we transfer those pupils into Llanrydder and Mocknant and do a comparison then of the savings in relation to the budget share. So it's broken down in terms of each category derived through the formula. We all know that with the formula that we currently have, any per pupil element that was within component 1 of our formula will always go across to the receiving school. So what you're looking at then is anything in relation really to premises top-ups and the unique factors, as we call them, associated with the school. So I can get a full split for scrutiny members of the actual allocations, but in relation to Ysgol Broken Life, the main savings in relation to the report of the 145,000 delegated budget are in relation to the small school top-up that Broken Life receives, which is outside of the per pupil element. The per pupil element still go into the receiving school in Powys. And there is then a reduction in the dual stream class size top-up that the receiving school would have through the formula, because the pupil numbers then are sufficient to drive down that top-up that is occurring as part of our funding formula principles that we set out within our funding formula. So there's the main elements are from small school top-up and a dual stream class size top-up in the receiving school, with the remaining element really being around your premises top-ups. So you're not having to top up the premises costs for the cost of running the school. What we've also said then separately in the report, in the paper, is that there is also an additional saving that is just we've just detailed separately in the report in relation to a revenue saving for the contribution that the school makes to the Llansilin Memorial Hall. So we've got with schools that have got halls attached to them, we fund the schools to make payments for the use of the hall. And that stands at 10,600 in terms of the funding element that we provide to the school currently. So that's the main areas of breakdown really. And like I say, I can provide a breakdown for that for scrutiny members.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair, do you mind if I carry on? It'd be
No, go on.
useful to have that breakdown. Nancy, from the saving, you know, the delegated budget is roughly 8,000, as you said at the beginning, per pupil. So the saving is roughly 6,000 per pupil. So it's only about, depends if you're 24, 26 pupils, depending which number you're using. So these money that's actually moving with the pupil is only about £2,000 to Llanrydder. Is that roughly right?
No, I'll just get the per pupil element for you now, Councillor Aled. I'll give that to you now. Sorry, just bear with me. The per pupil element is
Yeah, it says a potential saving in the delegated budget is 145k. If you divide
yes.
that by 24-25, comes up.
Yeah, can I just get the information, Chair,
Okay.
while we're going through, if that's okay. Sorry, so I can get my spreadsheet open. Thank you.
Okay, but what I was going to ask afterwards is what happens if the children don't go to Ysgol Llanrhaeadr and they go to their closest school?
If they don't go to Llanrhaeadr and they go to their closest school, then obviously there's a consideration for the council on the savings then of them not going to their closest school, including a per pupil. However, what we also will need to consider is the revenue support grant that is generated and provided to the council from Welsh Government on the indicators within that.
Shouldn't that work have been done for this report?
Can I come in?
Marianne.
Yeah, I forgot to say in my preamble, the reason that we have recommended that Ysgol Broken Llanfair closes and they transfer to their closest Powys school is because we want everybody to benefit from the Welsh curriculum, from the curriculum for Wales, and also from being able to participate in and have an understanding of the Welsh language. And if this goes forward and the final decision is to close Ysgol Broken Llanfair and pupil transfer to Llanrhaeadr, then the catchment of Llanrhaeadr will expand to include the whole Llansilin area. So then the closest school for pupils in the Llansilin area would then naturally be Llanrhaeadr anyway. As it currently stands, just to point this out, the closest school, if there was no school in Broken Llanfair today, and the closest school then for the majority of pupils are 2 schools in England. So that's where the issue lies. But however, we are committed to those pupils having this Welsh education, and why not? That's what we want to see. If parents choose though they don't want to come to Llanrhaeadr, and it's a parental choice, and families have different circumstances and they choose to go over the border, then that is their choice. But we want to, as a local authority, give them that offer and provide the transport to Llanrhaeadr as well.
I would have wished to see the financial implications if parents made that choice. And when you talk about most pupils, it's 90% of pupils are closer to an English school.
However, we cost our proposal, so this is the proposal. And in the past, in other proposals, where it's been closure and transfer to an alternative school, then we would have costed the alternative schools. But here, because the proposal is to a named school, then we've costed this proposal.
But for each child that chooses to go to their closest school, you would lose that funding in the through the RSG, but you would still have the cost of transporting that child to that Shropshire school, wouldn't you?
And it's a consideration against the cost per pupil of 8,000 for children in Broken Llanfair as well. So it's a whole range of factors that we need to consider when we're looking at the costs.
Okay.
Diolch, both. Councillor Lucy.
Yeah, thank you. Marianne, it would be helpful perhaps to have more detail on how the class structure in Llanrhaeadr would be arranged and how these new pupils would fit into that. The report suggests that one of the advantages to the Llansilin children is that they would be taught within the same age group classes. But because of the language split in Llanrhaeadr, it makes me wonder whether in fact that is going to be possible, or whether you're going to have classes that are just with just as wide age groups within those classes in Llanrhaeadr as you do in Llansilin.
Yeah, I will come in on that. It's been an interesting consideration. Eirik is around, I think, so Eirik can come in on this as well. one of the issues that we were considering, actually, yes, you're right. Ysgol Llanrhaeadr and Mochynant is a dual stream school, 2 classes in English, 2 classes in Welsh. So we were then concerned that should all the pupils in Llansilin transfer to Llanrhaeadr, would there be enough spaces? Yes, there are places for them. If all the English medium children chose the English stream in Llanrhaeadr and Mochynant, then the class structures would have to be, arranged in such a way as to ensure that those classes are reasonably sized. However, and we don't know, but we would really like to see some of the pupils from Broken Clythe then choosing the Welsh medium stream, and we don't know until the whole thing is implemented, and that would then have an impact on class structures. But I think from Llanrhaeadr and Mochynant itself, there is room within that school, but as with every school, they'd have to arrange the class structures. Eirik, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I'm happy to come in here as well. Yeah, there'll be consideration by the governing body in Llanrhaeadr as to how they will configure their classes. There is that consideration to take into place, and that will be looking at the number of pupils per year group that are coming in. I think it's important for Scrutiny to know that actually in Llansilin, for 1 day a week, all pupils are actually taught in the same class because of the configuration of the classes there now. So there it's important that if they did go to another school, they wouldn't have that have to have that as one of the ways of configuring their classes there. But just wanted to share that one too. Diolch.
Thank you, Eirik. You content with that, Lucy?
It certainly provides a bit more information. It would still be good to see how the age groups, if everybody from Llansilin would move across to Llanrhaeadr, how they might slot into the different age groups.
Okay.
Yeah, I can give you that if you want, or I can send it round in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you, Marianne. Councillor Bryn.
Yeah, diolch yn iawn. Yeah, there was not a lot of emphasis put on the benefits of larger class sizes. I don't know, you might want to expand on that, and because that's when it comes to the options for the various options, a couple of them include classrooms in the countryside, and there are, well, could you perhaps elucidate the potential disbenefits of that situation? And the other thing is, do we have the skills in Powys to encourage a significant number of the Ysgol Broken Clythe pupils to enter the trochi scheme, which you are fully intend to apply, as I understand it, because it does require a good degree of diplomacy and encouragement, because if they don't enter the trochi scheme and enter the Welsh medium stream in Llanrhaeadr, the whole process will be working against moving the dual stream at Llanrhaeadr along the language continuum, which is really important and which the county is committed to doing so. I would suggest that if they don't want to enter well, it might be fair to suggest, perhaps I won't directly suggest it, but if they don't want to enter the trochi scheme, that perhaps an alternative nearby Powys School might be best for them, because we do need to move Llanrhaeadr and Mochynant along that language continuum.
I'll come in.
Yeah.
I'll say this, right? So if all the pupils from Broken Clythe transferred in September to Llanrhaeadr, and they chose the English medium stream because that's their language that they're transferring from, then it does tip the percentage in the streams into the English medium stream being slightly larger than the Welsh stream. Currently, the Welsh stream is larger than the English stream. So that would be something that we would need to be aware of, and Cabinet would need to be aware of as we go forward. In terms of trochi is available to anybody at any time should they wish to enter into Welsh medium provision. But obviously we can't provide trochi as part of this, because we could, will be preempting, but it is available to anybody who wishes to join Welsh medium education.
Is that the case at any time?
If they were to join a Welsh medium education and they didn't have the backgrounds and didn't have the language, then trochi is available to them, and but it would have to be in the Broker Union canolfan, in the centre in Broker Union.
Would it not be possible to provide it in Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth? If you've got 24 pupils there, 25 pupils, that would be bigger than any trochi stream.
If they wished it, Bryn, isn't it? If they wish to have the provision, it's challenging in terms of staffing and staffing the staffing of the trochi provision, and the staff are currently in the centre in Broker Union.
But can I just put in that in reality, it is not truly available to everybody within the county, and it's absolutely nonsense to think that a significant all those children would go over to Llanfagreinion to receive their trochi. It should be equally available in all schools and funded by funded and properly funded across the county as well, because it's just ticking a box otherwise, with a finger in the air, hope it works. Probably wouldn't. And you've got to remember that there's quite a few children from Bro Cynllaeth already going to Llanrhaeadr to receive a Welsh medium education, and those children aren't included in this document at all. And I think that's a serious error here. So those who are committed to Welsh medium education are already going to Llanrhaeadr.
Yeah.
So the chances of these children following in that path is quite limited, especially as pathworks to work from that area towards Oswestry. Many of these children will follow that pathway.
Trochi really has to be put on a plate right in front of them on their doorstep.
Exactly. Otherwise, they won't participate.
It's got to be made a really easy option.
Can I just come in here a second? I think we've got two elements to trochi here. The first one is the trochi that would be available, that if a parent today said, I want to transfer to Welsh medium, and then the trochi that could be available once this proposal has gone through the process. The problem we have at the moment is committing overtly to expanding trochi, to putting for example, putting a trochi centre into Bro Cynllaeth in, for example, the summer term. Saying that now could be taken by campaigners to be predetermining this application. What can be looked at as potential, what can be discussed, and what can be actioned once a decision has been taken is another matter. But at this stage, we have to make the assumption that the only trochi we are offering is the trochi that we are offering to pupils in Llanfyllin, in Llansanfraid, other places within the catchment, so as not to be accused of creating an environment that is undermining the school at the moment. Because one of the accusations that could be made, if, for example, we said, right, we're going to shift the trochi centre to Bro Cynllaeth for the second half of this term, run an intensive trochi course there, we get 6 or 7 children taking that up and then immediately transferring to Llanrhaeadr, the accusation could be made that we deliberately undermined the viability of that school during a consultation. So we have to be aware of the risks of what we are doing in terms of accusations of predetermination under the school code.
Bryn, I'm going to come back to you.
Yeah. So would it be fair to interpret the situation that you would be open to such proposals should this decision be made as proposed? That's the other thing, and second, if it isn't, then you are moving ysgol Llanrhaeadr y Mochnant in the wrong direction along the continuum.
Can I come back in? It would be definitely something we can consider should this proposal go forward. And yes, longer term plans are to move Llanrhaeadr along the continuum. We just have to be mindful of the cost of it and the staffing available for it. So, but this would be something we could explore then with the school should this go forward. But there are some logistical difficulties around Trochi that we will need to try and address in order for it to be really successful.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the costs of Trochi have to go up and up and up and up because it needs more of it, and it cannot be used as the cost of Trochi going up should be a marker of success in Powys, not of failure.
And I'll always say it's Bryn. It is one that we lobby Welsh Government for, and and I know that conversation with Welsh Government needs to continue.
Okay, diolch for now. Diolch, Gwynfor.
Yeah, thank you, diolch. Margaret, welcome to the meeting. I know you've had a devil's own job getting here today, but it's really good to see you, and I'm glad you sorted your IT out. So, Margaret, you're muted. There we go.
Yeah, thank you. I was really going to apologise because it was sorted out 11:30 today sort of time, and I haven't had it for days because my laptop was locked, and there were communication issues that caused that to happen, and I've discovered what they are, and I'll make people aware of them at some point. It's not material, but so I really won't be making the contribution I would like to make because I just haven't had the time to actually look closely and as critically at things because of the situation. But what I do want to ask is, from Ysgol Broken Life, and it's probably in the papers and I haven't seen it, but where over the last few years, where do they go to secondary school from there?
Ysgol Llanfyllin.
They all go to Llanfyllin. They don't go anywhere else.
There's a possibility some could go over the border to the marches, but unless anybody tells me different, I expect the majority go to Ysgol Llanfyllin.
So that won't impact. That will be whatever happens here won't affect that.
Quite possibly, if we lose some of these pupils to primary schools in England, I suppose the natural journey then would be to a secondary school in Oswestry.
Yeah. Oswestry is close. Oswestry is closer.
In respect to your specific question, Margaret, if all of the pupils move to Llanrhaeadr y Mochnant as per recommendation, they still remain within the Llanfyllin catchment, so the natural progression would be from there to Llanfyllin. Obviously, parental choice comes into play.
Yeah. So there isn't, as in some areas, a move when they get to secondary that they go over the border, or it isn't a feature in that area with those children.
We can check it for you, Margaret, if that's the case.
It is a feature at border in areas, and it's quite significant and increasingly so.
I would assume that some would go to the marches, but we will double check. We do know that the 61 on the high school bus coming down from Llanselin to Llanfyllin, but we will double check if we are losing any across the border.
Can I just add there would be a significantly greater risk of that happening because community information talk, they talk about going across the border to English primary schools because they're the closest. And once that pathway has been established, it is very difficult to turn it around afterwards.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to Chloe now. Councillor Chloe.
Thank you, Chair. So a bit of a different question here, and it might be my lack of knowledge about the process, but as I understand it, what will happen now is that there'll be a consultation with the community about the options that are available to them. I'm quite concerned about this, having had a small school close in my ward before I was elected. It was very contentious and obviously had a huge impact on the community, but there was also a lot of I suppose hope for quite a long time that the decision would be changed, or that it was still going to remain open. When I read reports like this, it looks like before the consultation happens, the decision has been made. And I just wanted to understand a bit more what happens if the consultation results are that, because it says it needs to, the feedback needs to be considered when it comes in, and the Cabinet will make a decision whether or not to proceed. But what options are the community going to be given, and really is that, at what point does that make this proposal not progress?
Okay, in terms of the process, we'll take a report now to Cabinet, and if Cabinet approve it, we can then start consultation. When we consult on this proposal. So we would provide information out to the community that we are required to. So we have to follow the Welsh Government's code. It's very prescriptive in terms of the information required, but it's definitely around a proposal. So during that time, then we would receive feedback from stakeholders, from parents, we meet with pupils, from the staff, the governors, and any member of the community. Anybody, in fact, can respond to a school consultation. What happens then is we will assess the issues that come through. So we then prepare a consultation report. So what Cabinet see then after the consultation is quite usually a very, very lengthy document with all the issues that have been raised through the consultation, and also the council's response, so our responses to those. Then it's down to Cabinet. So Cabinet consider the issues raised, and if it's for them then to decide whether or not they want to proceed to the next stage, or whether they want to stop the process. And this has happened before, I have to say. Or whether there are some modifications. So that's the process. When we receive the feedback from stakeholders are able to provide any other option as well. So if there are alternative options that the community wants to put forward, that is open to them to put through the consultation process. Then we as officers have to then further assess any viable or alternative options that come through in the paperwork that then goes back to Cabinet. So, even though we put a proposal out and we've got, we're open to alternative options, and then we will look at whether alternative options are better than this proposal in terms of addressing the issues raised in the case of a change.
Okay, Chloe.
That is useful. Just, I suppose, a final comment really is I can't imagine a consultation response on the closure of a small school that doesn't have significant objection from pupils, teachers, governors, and local community. And you see in here the impact it has on the community in terms of the hall, the shop. And so I just wonder what, I suppose what they could provide that would change the course of this process. That's more perhaps a comment than an actual question, but something that would be useful when we're considering processes and consulting with people and asking their opinions and then apparently disregarding them. It would be useful when we do the consultation to make it clear what's really likely to happen.
I think as well, in terms of the community impact assessments, that's really important as well for communities to tell us, you know, what the impact is on the community. The community impact assessment is published in draft form throughout the whole process. So it's published in draft form going to cabinet now. It'll be published in draft form going out to consultation if we get consultation. Then again, it's updated to identify or to outline whatever's come through the consultation that we haven't picked up previously. And then back to cabinet, and it is then, you know, all the information is there then for cabinet to make their decision. But I will say here in school consultations, it's not a referendum. It's not a, you know, yes or no, or whoever shouts loudest. You know, it is then taking all the information on balance and considering all the issues. There's a line in the school organisation code that states that, you know, decision makers have to conscientiously consider all the information that have come in. So that's then down to cabinet.
Thanks for that reassurance, Marianne. Councillor Lucy.
Yeah. Just come in response to that one, please. To help you through the thought process I have with these proposals, officers will come to me with a proposal, and in the first instance, they have to convince me that the case they are putting forward has merit. If the case doesn't have merit to warrant going out to consultation, I would either ask them to strengthen their argument or say, no, we're not moving forward with it. That case then is tested, and in my mind, I'm looking at responses that provide additional information that officers might not be aware of, that bring into question the case that they have put forward, and either offer an alternative case that meets the requirements of the code and the requirements of the case for change in a different way, or demonstrates that there is information that runs counter to the case that officers have brought forward, to the extent that the case that they have brought forward is sufficiently weakened as to not merit moving forward with. So it's very much focused on, in this case, the case for change around the teaching and learning experience, around the numbers, and in this one, the factor that specifically concerns me is the fact that one day a year you've got an all-through teaching class, so you've got children that have just come into school.
One day a week, Pete, not 1 day a year.
Sorry, 1 day a week. Thanks for the correction. Being taught in the same class as someone who might be in their final year at school and about to go up to high school. So that's a particular factor in this school that is an educational concern.
Okay, let's move. Lucy, you've dropped away there. Are you? Yeah.
Please, going forward. I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
Yeah, my question was about the fact that I understood that locally there were discussions about the option of the school either becoming a classroom in the field from attached to Llanfachlin School, or even pupils moving to Llanfachlin rather than Llanrada, because Llanfachlin seems to be more of a natural link and the direction that families naturally travel, particularly when older siblings are in Llanfachlin. And I just wondered whether that had been considered, and if not, why not?
Right, classroom in country. We started the optioning by considering that the closest primary school to Brokenllaeth is Llanrhaeadr. So the options are focused then on Llanrhaeadr. The classroom in the country option, right? There's a similar option within the option appraisal around Llanrhaeadr, and it's sort of Llanrhaeadr taking over Brokenllaeth. But you and then so there's a school in Llansilin, but it's not Brokenllaeth, it's Llanrhaeadr with two sites. you can see from the option appraisal then that we've assessed the advantages and disadvantages, but at the end of the day, we've discounted that option because we didn't feel that that option addressed the issues that identified in the case for change, being low pupil numbers, small classes, etc. So, and high cost per pupil, because the school would still remain a school in Broken-Clythe. And I think that then, if you think about the classroom in the country and the relationship with Ysgol Llanfyllin, I would argue that that would be the same outcome if we'd have included that as an option as well. So there would be, you know, some additional considerations for that, but because the relationship is between Broken-Clythe and Llanrhaeadr, we did not consider that. However, that's not to say that should that come through as an alternative option, if we went to consultation, that we wouldn't have to assess that as well.
I think the point being the stronger links with Llanfyllin than with Llanrhaeadr, but also that, you know, my other point was whether the children the pupils couldn't actually travel to Llanfyllin rather than to Llanrhaeadr, where they would have the choice between medium of Welsh or English medium, and also as siblings or older siblings would already be in Llanfyllin. That might actually make more sense than having pupils travelling in almost the opposite direction.
I think you know, with distances would be the issue there. Then is further to travel to Llanfyllin. That's not to say, Lucy, that we, you know, if it comes through the conversation, then we would look at it and we'd have to assess it. So
I think the distance, the difference in distance is relatively small, really, and probably a better road, isn't it? So, in terms of time of travel, I don't think it would take that much longer.
Thanks, Lucy. I'm going to go to Councillor Gareth. He had his hand up some time now, and he dropped away, and he's come back in. So, Councillor Gareth,
apologies, Chair. I don't know what's happening with my machine. I've got 5 questions. I'm not sure if you want me to ask them all now or.
Let's get them out the way.
Right. Okay. The first one is I'm confused on the funding per pupil because it works out at 24 pupils, and I can't see where the 24 pupils come from. So if it's based on 23-24 financial year, that is going to be based on, I understand, October 22 pupil numbers. But unless there's been an intake of pupils between October 22 and January 23, then I don't know where those numbers come from. I don't need that clarity now. Just making that point. I'm a bit concerned that we've got the data is aged. So it's based on 23-24. I think not for now, but when it goes to consultation, I think it'd be good if you had the projected savings for the current pupil numbers and also the pupil numbers that you're expecting in September 25. That's right. The third question I've got relates to the capacity at Llanrhaeadr.
Yeah.
Because I worked out it's a capacity of 17 pupils per year group. Do we know if any of those, what's the maximum number in year groups are at the moment? And in particular reference to the current year 4 and current year 2 pupil year groups in Llanrhaeadr, because as Marianne knows, I've got a situation locally where a student's being refused a place in a school when there's capacity in the class but not in the year group. So I don't know whether we've got that information available now. I'm a little bit disappointed that the Llanrhaeadr pupil numbers aren't shown in the paper, or if they are, I've missed them. So that's the third. And the fourth one, and this is based on my historical knowledge of the school, going back to Mr. Hale's day, I think it was, when he was head teacher in the school. The capacity that's stated seems very low, because I can remember it being at least a 3-class school. I know there's one very big classroom that you can split. And the question I've got is, how are they utilising that other spaces, or has the council removed a mobile classroom? And my last question is if pupils chose to go to their closest schools, either in Wrexham or in England, other than Llanrhaeadr, will transport be provided?
Okay, I've got Nancy with her hand up, so I'm guessing she's going to answer one of your questions, and then give an opportunity for others to think about the other comments that are made. Nancy.
Thank you, Chair. I think I've scribbled down quickly enough, Councillor Gareth. But yeah, we've got a couple of things going on in the paper with regards to timing. So in the paper, like you note, you've got the Section 52 funding per pupil information from 23-24. We will update that. We've spoken already as officers going forward for the 24-25 information that actually just later on has been published now by Welsh Government formally on their on the website, so we'll update that. There's little movement with regards to that in terms of the funding from 23-24 to 24-25, but we can update that in the paper anyway. And just to be clear then, with regards to your other point, really, when we've calculated the figures for the savings within this report, we have used the funding formula relevant to the year where the the closure would take place, if that is agreed at Cabinet. So we've used a 25-26 funding formula for the relevant year that happens. That's what we've always done, really, in as we know it's based on next year. So what you've got is, when you look at these savings, and I say it'd be clearer when I provide a breakdown, you've got the savings from the delegated budget have been provided to Broken Life through the funding formula, but what also is in here to make up these savings is elements where the receiving school wouldn't have as much of a top up,
I understand that.
the funding per pupil. So you've got an element that relates to Broken Life, but an element of the saving that relates to the receiving school and the top ups there as well. Sorry.
Is that based on the 24 pupils that's in section 2.7 funding per pupil? Or is that based on a different number? Don't need an answer now, but I think we just need clarification.
That's fine. I'll come back to you if that's okay on that. But that's how we've approached it then. And obviously, I know, just going back to Councillor Allard's comments, Chair, if I can as well, from earlier part of the meeting, you've got a number of things then that transfer to the receiving school. So you've got the per pupil element, which is in component 1. But what you've also got when we're doing funding formula savings with regards to the schools delegated, you've got a couple of elements, such as the ALN element that is within the formula in component 2, which would transfer on top, because the statistical information gathered from the pupils would need to transfer into that receiving school as well. So you've got component 1, and then there's a component 2 ALN and an ALN deprivation element to the funding formula, which also transfers. But it isn't just about the saving from Ysgol Broken Life, from the delegated line of Ysgol Broken Life. It considers the option that we've been asked to model, which includes Llanrydder being the receiving school, and the funding then, any adjustments of how they would be funded should those pupils come there. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I come back on the other 4 questions?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, good point. The data will be updated by the time we get out of consultation. So at the moment, the data is based on January 2023 PLASC. We've got PLASC data for 2024, which we haven't updated, as these papers went through the internal processes before the summer. We will update them. Just to say, the pupil projections are based on January 2023 data as well, because we haven't got those yet, so we'll have to wait for those to come through. In terms of admissions and capacity at Llanrydder, the capacity of Llanrydder is 120 place school, which then would give you an admission number of 17, so you're correct, Gareth. Currently, the published admission number is 15, because there was a miscalculation, I think, in the capacity of Llanrydder, which we've now addressed. So, but we will be working with the governing body if this proposal goes forward to that 17 admission number. However, there are some year groups, should all the pupils from Broken Life transfer to Llanrydder, and just to make the point that the admission number doesn't recognise English stream, Welsh stream, it's across the year group. There are some year groups that are slightly just above that 17. I think the largest we'd have is 20. However,
which year group is that, Marianne?
it's current year 5, Gareth. Current year 4. Okay.
So there's 6 pupils in Brokenclythe in year 4. Therefore, that makes it 26. Therefore, you cannot admit them into Llanrydder.
Yes, we can. We could use the discretionary powers within the admission code.
Okay, so, we need another discussion about another school then.
We do. If the council is proposing to, if this is a council's proposal, then we need to make sure that those pupils are given a place at the school. There are discretionary powers within the admissions code.
I 100% agree, but I think we should be providing equity to all pupils across in all schools in Powys.
Okay, I hear what you say, Gareth. Okay, so that was that, right? Brokenclythe capacity, I think you queried. I've just checked with Eirig, and I think they don't use their mobile anymore.
Okay. So in effect, the surplus capacity at the school is greater than that, what is stated.
But if they're not using their classroom, then it's not counted, is it? So
no, I know that because I used to be in control of it. But yeah.
I know.
But yeah, okay.
Okay, and then if transport, so if pupils chose their closest school, and that closest school was across the border, whichever border, then if we would have to would have to provide the transport to their closest school, regardless of the border.
Okay.
Okay,
that's fine.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good. Councillor Angela, you seem to have been waiting an eternity. Now's your opportunity.
Well, to be fair, Chair, I think a number of my questions have been answered. Just to sort of extend on one of Gareth's comments, I would have liked to have seen in the report the pupil numbers by year group for the proposed receiving school, now and after. If the,
okay.
And the question I have really, so one of the reasons given for closure is the small size of the school, and you make reference to the Welsh Government's classification of small schools. But actually, by its current pupil numbers, Llanrydder is also a small school. And given that we've got no guarantee that the children from this school will move across, you kind of, are we kind of using the data when we need it and then ignoring it when we don't? Just thinking out loud, really. And I am also wondering why in the report we didn't see a bit more about the options at the other schools, because the key options that seem to have been considered here are all about Ysgol Brokenclythe remaining a satellite or remaining a classroom or everybody moving. But as been said about the links to Llanbwllyn being stronger, and I did just think that perhaps a bit more exploration needs to be done for that option. And then finally, because all my other questions really have been covered, you actually said yourself that there would be significant community impact, and just extending really on what Chloe said, that is a concern really for a small rural community. And I just wonder what mitigations can be put in place. Are they're going to lose their school? I think I read in the report that, well, what happens to it? It's not a church school, so it's still a local authority building. What happens to that building?
Okay.
Where is it?
Okay, so I'll start with that one from the end then, Angela. In terms of should the proposal go forward, should the final decision be to close, then the school is in the council's ownership, so it's not a church school, so it doesn't, nobody else involved here. We would then apply the council's asset management policy. So we would then have discussions with the community. I think that would be the first thing, to see whether there is any appetite to use a site, to use the buildings for community use. I think the reason from, if you read the community impact assessment, the reason that there would be a detrimental impact is that the Memorial Hall in Llansilin, the Llansilin Memorial Hall, and they're built right next to the school. There's the council pays a rent to the hall, quite a significant rent per year. and that would then be removed. So there would be an impact there. You know, the end result could be, if there was an appetite, then, you know, it falls back to the council to decide what it needs to do. So it would consider whether there were the service areas that needed to use the site. And then ultimately, then if not, then it, you know, there's a capital receipt potentially available. So, but first of all, with all the, when we close the schools, it is a kind of conversation with the community first to see whether there's options there. There was that one. We will. I've already discussed the Llanfyllin option. Again, if that comes through, we will consider that. We will, I think, amend the report to put in the information around the class structures in Llanrhaeadr.
Yeah.
You know, both now and after. So I think that would be a useful piece of information for everybody to see. And was there anything else, Angela? I've lost my.
I'm just going through my list. Well, the one thing I hadn't mentioned, but I've written down here, is there will be an environmental impact. Currently, you've got pupils generally walk into this little school and they're going to be transported. I suppose you can weigh up the odds between running a building that's got few people in it, but, you know, clearly there will be an impact, but how you calculate that, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's me for now. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Angela. Councillor Bryn.
Diolch yn fawr. Yeah, well, Angela's raised the point I was really concerned about, the fact that the potential sale of the land, it looks like a not a driver, but a bonus from the scheme. But I'm glad to hear that community options will be put up first. I think that's really essential. It's right in the middle of Llanfyllin. It's the hall one side, the pub the other side, the chapel in the middle, you know, and it's potential to be a fantastic facility for the village, and especially as more houses go up around the edge of the village, it's going to be more and more useful and valuable. And I'm sure, or I can almost guarantee, there would be community interest in that area of green space in the middle of Llanfyllin. So that was good. There's a couple of things. I don't think the links to Llanfyllin are any stronger than they are to Llanrhaeadr. Llanrhaeadr is definitely, if they don't go to Oswestry, Llanrhaeadr is going to be closer. The other thing is buses already run through the catch Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth carrying primary school kids to Llanrhaeadr and Mochnant. It would be silly to run them through to another set of buses going to Llanfyllin. And the secondary school bus is full as it is, things like that. So the other thing, I think, when the consultation starts, this is a question. Will there be visits? Will officers be visiting the school as part of the consultation? Okay, diolch. I see Marianne nodding ahead. Please, could you also visit Ysgol Llanrhaeadr and Mochnant as part of that consultation? Because the reality is Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth has been dividing the community throughout its existence. Local people have had to choose between the local school or their own culture and tradition. And my kids have had to be bussed out of the catchment in order to receive a Welsh medium education, which has been denied to them at Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth forever. I note that the council, it says somewhere in the report, the council decided that the rural school designation, the not being a rural school designation, was a mistake. I would also, it'd be grateful if the council could recognise that designating Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth as an English medium school was a mistake. Aled's predecessor as local councillor, a Welsh speaker when he wanted your vote, was but only then, because he sent his children to Oswestry well, as soon as he could. It was closer, but when my sister and myself were at meetings in Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth asking for more Welsh medium education in Llanfyllin, and we're going back 20-30 years now. Nearly 30 years ago, asking Ariane asked, can we have more Welsh medium education? The then county councillor turned to her husband and says, can't you control your wife? But that is the kind of attitude that that made Ysgol Llansilin and was given a designation of an English medium school, which was outrageous then, as it is now.
Bryn, can we keep
yeah.
to the proposal paper, please?
So that is the really important part of it. If you're going out to consultation, I'm sure every parent who currently sends their child to Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth will be very well aware that they got an opportunity to answer the consultation paper. It is equally important that all the kids from the Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth catchment who are currently bussed out to Llanrhaeadr catchment also get an opportunity to respond to the consultation paper and are made equally aware of its existence. So if you are visiting Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth during the consultation, please also visit Ysgol Llanrhaeadr Mochnant to give the parents from the Llansilin catchment that same opportunity and that same encouragement to participate in the consultation. And just the last comment is that it'll be a hard blow for the Memorial Hall in Llansilin. Yeah, it gets something like £10,000 a year rent plus repairs and stuff carried out by Powys County Council. So it will be a hard knock, but I think it's a bit of an insult for the school to suggest, which I think it does in the paper, that the hall will close and can't cope without the school, because it did exist for half a century before the school was opened on site without any help. I think it's been insulting to the rest of the community to suggest that it won't survive afterwards, but it will be a hard knock, and as gentle separation of ties as possible would be very much appreciated.
Just on the consultation then, please, Marianne.
On the consultation, yeah, Ysgol Bro Cynllaeth, Ysgol Llanrhaeadr Mochnant is an affected school, so it will be included in the consultation. And I think it's important that it is included in the consultation. Other schools which may receive pupils will also be included in the consultation as well.
Okay, deal. Councillor Aled.
Does that include the Shropshire schools, Marianne?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Bryn was quite right. The school and community have been let down about the lack of Welsh education within Llansilin. The school numbers back in beginning of this 2000s was up 80, 90 odd pupils, and there's a real opportunity then. My children went to Llanfyllin to receive their Welsh education. And also I welcome the comments around the field. It's a green space. It's the only green space in the village. Part of that green space is taken up by a playground run by the community. So I wouldn't, cabinet members, I'm suggesting that please don't start eyeing up a capital receipt there. The consultation stuff. If another proposal came forward in the consultation, for example, Llanfyllin, you might have seen my response to the report, local members' response. I only sent it off half an hour before this meeting. Slightly disappointed that I didn't have that opportunity before the papers were initially published. But I don't know what the rules are around that, and so I'm frustrated by that. So I assume Llanfyllin will be also in that consultation. But if that proposal regarding Llanfyllin appears to be attractive, appears to be a possibility, would you have to go back out to consults on that, or can you just consult or not?
Yes, we would have to go out and consult on a different proposal.
Okay, because that's a disincentive to looking at another proposal, isn't it? Because of timescales.
It has happened previously, and it is part of the process that can happen. Cabinet could look at it and say, hang on, no, this is a better option, and then it would be to Cabinet then to decide whether they wanted to proceed with this one or stop it and start a new process. It has a timescale implication. Yes, you're right, Anna.
Okay. Funding at Llanrhaeadr. Llanrhaeadr is it's not a cheap school to run. It's I can't remember what the per head funding, 6K, is it ish? Because it's a split school, two small schools in one, and there's and they're taught by Key Stage basically, aren't they, in Welsh and in English, so making it sort of full class. And the comment about Broken Llaeth only having one class on the Fridays, I think is slightly unfair. They run a tight ship around the financing of that school. They could have bought in as extra support and run up a deficit like many other schools have done. So that's a bit of a slight against Llansilin between local volunteers and things. I think they still deliver relatively a fairly good experience with, and at the same time keeping well inside the budget allowed them. Yes, confirmation around the cost of Llanrhaeadr School. The standard spending assessment, Welsh Government works out the funding on that. Could Nancy and explain that bit of the element when you send out those financial figures around those savings as well? Is standard spending assessment, I think it's called, isn't it? Or so much per pupil according to your stats.
Yes, yeah, we can include that. Yeah.
Okay. And coming back to the consultation, I think is a little bit dishonest, some of the commentary within the, like option 5, the commentary around the weaknesses. It says, so, Pete, you've got to take responsibility for this, really, because it says if pupils, option 5, for example, it says if pupils choose to attend schools in England, they would not benefit from the curriculum. And it says almost, no, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Wait, sorry, wrong one. One of the weaknesses, it says some pupils may be closer to the schools in Shropshire. Well, 90% are closer to schools in Shropshire. So that's comment there should read almost all pupils live closer to a school in Shropshire, because it really misrepresents the situation. From the school service, Eston really, you've got to have a dictionary to understand their language sometimes, to understand the categories and things they put in. But Powys needs to be as precise around its language when writing reports. One other thing, the condition score of the school, it's B and C or C and B, isn't it?
It's a C and a B.
C and a B. So the condition score is C. What makes it a C? Because I know the chair of governor and others think the school is in relatively good condition now. It's had a new roof, new tarmac drive, and security fencing is going up, etc., etc. And also, when explaining that, can you comment on how much of a maintenance backlog there is within the school?
Okay, the condition C is taken from an old survey, Aled. So it's 2016 condition surveys undertaken by Welsh Government.
So that's 8 years old, is it? It
is. We have, over this last year, there's been a whole set of condition assessments being undertaken on schools.
Yeah.
So there's one that the council are doing in terms of condition. Then there's another one that Welsh Government have been doing in terms of net zero. And both of those reports will then inform us as we go forward. So, so when we get to consultation, an updated condition assessment would have been undertaken, and we'll reflect that one. In terms of the backlog maintenance linked to the 2016, it's 153k, I think, in terms of that. Again, that was we need to be mindful that that's quite old, so we would need to reflect. And I know there's been quite a lot of work at the school over the last few years, so we'll have a look at that.
We really do need them at this point in the process, to be honest. Just like Gareth was talking about finance figures and stuff. But 8 years is quite a span, isn't it? Sorry, Manu, carry on.
That's it on that one. What else did you ask, Alice?
I think Irig's coming in to help you out, Marianne, in relation to one of Alad's points.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Councillor Aled had mentioned about the 1 day week. I think we were actually mentioning that as a fact of actually happening there. We didn't actually mention, you know, the strong work that goes into there, but also the difficulties to actually cater for all those pupils at their levels for 1 day per week. You know, that is a huge challenge, and a huge challenge for the head teacher. I know I work and support that school. I know the support that head teacher puts in there and the hard work that they put in there. And I don't want anybody to think that we don't see the hard work that's going there, but I want to be aware that it's a challenge and a huge challenge at that point. But at no point are we saying that they're not trying their best, because they really are in very challenging situations. So I just wanted to mention that, so it's recorded as well.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, but it was Councillor Roberts' contribution, the tone of that I was questioning, really. Thank you.
Can I just come in on the back of that as well, just to say, to take sort of the bigger picture here. When schools come to the, sort of this small size, and they're below 30, they are vulnerable. They're vulnerable to any changes to staffing, anything that happens, and it's that vulnerability that and the financial viability, educational viability going forward. But when you come to these small schools, they do become vulnerable, and that's what we've seen other schools, going into the cycle, really. So but that, as Eric said, we have had discussions with the school there, and they are doing the best that they can in the circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I talk about that linkage to Llanfwrlyn, because it's got greater capacity and resilience with a much bigger school to help in those particular situations. And there's a clear, no matter what Bryn says, there are buses running from Llansilin to Llanrhaeadr on a daily basis.
To Llanrhaeadr, yeah.
So and once a child's on the bus, that's where the cost arrives, because it's another half mile. It doesn't make a huge difference.
Okay, content there, Aled?
Well,
yeah,
there'll be a public consultation, won't there? But I wish this consultation paper was more rounded. Thank you.
Thank you. There's hands dipping in and out. Okay. We're going to take Councillor Gareth first now. Bryn, whatever.
Yeah. My question feeds on from last point that Alice just made, and the point that Bryn made previously. If there's transport already running from Llansilin through to Llanrhaeadr for Welsh medium, what is the basis of the 70,800 saving on transport? Is that an overinflated figure, and should the saving actually be lower than that? And the second question is one to Irig. What level of management time does their teacher at Llansilin have?
I'm happy to come in on that one now. She gets 1 day a week for management and PPA.
Right, okay.
Which is not a considerable amount of.
No, and obviously there must have been a significant change in the formula since I was an officer, because it used to be that all schools were funded for a minimum of 2 teachers, but I still can't think what happened when we only funded at 25, but I'd have to go back and check something. But yeah, thanks. But I think a response on that one on transport, Marianne, would be welcome.
Yeah, okay, so on the transport, so we've looked at the pupil postcodes and the existing routes. So currently the 2 buses already running from Llanrhaeadr, from Broken Clythe area to Llanrhaeadr, and really what the costs are based on a larger sized bus, so 2 buses, but they're larger and additional mileage. So that's where that comes from. And I think the transport unit looked at average daily costs as well. Again, they are estimates.
So that's an extra £375 a day. Transport.
It's an additional 70,000, isn't it?
Yeah,
per year.
£372 a day.
Again, it's another financial figure in the whole.
Yeah, and I know transport is almost impossible to calculate at this stage, but I'm quite shocked it's that high, because I assume there's already transport coming into Llansilin, because it's quite a large catchment area, if my memory serves me right, for the school. So there must be transport coming in. And if there's transport already going to Llanrhaeadr, I just think sounds an awful lot of money, especially if you then factor that I understand that undersold transport is projected to increase by 50% over the next 4 or 5 years' time nationally.
Okay, and now Councillor Bryn.
Yeah, diolch. I just wonder, well, that transport comment is very relevant, and I was wonder find a point of agreement with Alan. Geographically, yeah, we're right on within a field, half a field across to Shropshire, and I think it's a shame really that Ysgol Penabont Fawr and Ysgol Llanrhaeadr are only 2.7 miles apart. Long-term vision, and it's another reason for powers to hang on to this land. If we in a better world, where if we had free choice of where to locate schools, we'd have one school at the Penabont Fawr Llanrhaeadr end of the valley, and another school in Llansilin, where it would attract all the kids from the Rhyd y Croesau, Nantygollen, Tribon areas, which are traditionally Welsh-speaking areas of Shropshire, as they're a bit few and far apart. You know, it's from a bilingual education point of view, where we're defending from the penalty box, and we should be defending from the halfway line. You know, because you've got to make access to bilingual education easy, and to Llansilin would be a better site than Llanrhaeadr, but I do appreciate you're not going to knock Ysgol Llanrhaeadr down now. But just a bit of long-term vision for you. That was a comment. Yeah.
Yeah, well, King Offa lacked long-term vision as well, didn't he? So, King Offa lacked long-term vision as well, didn't he? But
yeah.
Hey,
Cloud, what do you want to think about? What's like the other side of Oswestry?
Okay, I've got no other hands up. I've actually been very silent surrounding this. It's been a fascinating debate and difference of opinions from many different people. It's also fascinating to receive local knowledge of some of our councillors as well. It's always difficult when we're discussing school closures or going into consultation surrounding school closures, but there seems to be an awful lot of confusion surrounding this, and I just hope the consultation will tease some of these out. Just if it's okay, a final comment. I'm confused with the school transport aspect of this. How does these proposals fit in with this new school transport policy, which is out for consultation now? Because the proposal is to nearest catchment school. So how does that work when pupils consider across the border? Is the catchment still, although it's in England, is that still become part of the catchment? Have I explained myself there?
No, that's a really good point. And I don't think I've got the answer to that one in terms of the ones across the border. Again, the current proposal around the homeschool transport is to transport to the catchment school.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the Powys catchment, Llanrhaeadr would then expand, wouldn't it, as I said earlier, to include the Llansilin area. But it is a good point around what does that mean for closest school. Currently, it's closest or catchment school. So leave that with us. I will have a conversation with others around that one.
There was documentation, Marianne, because I wrote the letter to Welsh Government asking them, could Powys, if a pupil lived closer to a school in England than a Powys school, could Powys refuse transport if the parents wanted that transport to the closest English school? And the answer was no.
Yes.
But it also stated that they'd want to see all pupils living in Wales being able to access a school in Wales. So you'd have to boost choice. But that was, that's 15 years ago. That might have changed.
the point I'm making surrounding it, the new school transport policy, which is out for consultation, will come into action next September. So the way it reads currently, and please shut me down if I'm wrong, with the way it reads currently, we wouldn't be envisaging a cost to transport across the border.
The question is, does the powers policy override Welsh legislation?
Right.
And I just need clarity around that.
Yeah.
And I've asked for a copy of, I understand there's documentation from Welsh Government saying that what they're proposing is correct, but I've asked for a copy of that letter or that information from Welsh Government.
Okay.
And it's also a definition of what they call nearest suitable school, because I would argue that all maintained schools are suitable.
But it's certainly,
Well, if they're all Welsh
it
schools, that'd
certainly
be
needs
fine,
to
yeah.
be clarified on a consultation so that everybody knows on that. Councillor Bryn.
Yeah, it's on the same subject, really. The current cabinet is very enthusiastic about a matches agreement, which is a horrible name because the matches only exist in England at the moment. Should be call it the Empire Agreement if you want. But if the matches agreement is going to exist and going to mean anything, then school transport has to be the top priority. So the kids from the Shropshire and possibly Herefordshire, but I don't know about down there, but definitely in Shropshire, should be entitled to a bilingual education. And if Shropshire County Council can't fund it, which is understandable, then transport across the border should be paid for by Shropshire in that direction. If we're feeding their schools in Bishop's Castle with however many kids go there from Wales, then with our money, then it should come back in the other direction for kids who want bilingual education from England. And if
they're
that's
not getting
not
free
top of the
transport.
priority, there's a problem there.
But
they're
if
not getting free transport to Bishop's Castle, are they?
Say it again.
They're not getting free transport to Bishop's Castle from Welshpool.
Not from
They're
Welsh,
from Montgomery.
From Churchstoke, they are.
Churchstoke.
Because it's closer.
My understanding of the SSA process, standard spending assessment, and the Green Book funding is that for pupils, it's the fund for the education is based on the number of pupils in the school, but the funding for transport is actually based on their perceived number of children living in the authority, regardless of whether they attend school. But that could have changed.
Does Mr. Roberts have a view on the issue of negotiation with the county next door, the Shropshire and
I've
transport?
already asked officers to open those negotiations because it has a bearing on how we look at developing Welsh medium, particularly in the Welshpool area, as it potentially would open up options for additional Welsh medium education in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that is actively being pursued. It might be something that will be progressed, but I'm aware of Shropshire's budgetary position, so it may take a while to come through.
Okay, we're going to conclude this now. We've been running for an hour and a half. Members, we're going to have to make some comment in relation to the cabinet report. We've raised some very interesting points today. Shall we try and put some together? I think there's points to be made around the savings.
I don't think they stack up. We got no idea where the children will go, and it'll possibly cost the council more than the saving.
Okay, so there's points to be made around the savings. Yeah, are we happy that we put something together in relation to that? Yeah. Something
You're
in
muted, Gareth. Oh.
Go on, Gareth.
Yeah, sorry. There also needs to be a point that the report is based on age data, and therefore that needs to be updated really before. I would actually suggest it'll be updated before they go to cabinet. But I see it's down for next Tuesday, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and it definitely needs to be updated before. I don't think that would actually make a significant change to the figures, but I just think before it went to the consultation, you need to make sure you're fighting on the most relevant data.
Yeah, I think we need to make a point in relation to Trochy.
Well, I was going to say we need to make sure that it doesn't push Llanrydder and Markland into the wrong direction along the language spectrum, and all efforts must be made to avoid that, which means Trochy, yeah.
No, I'm happy to do that.
And
the narrative needs to be correct within the report.
Expand a bit there, Aled, please.
Oh, about the language around. If you read this report, it'd be 1 or 2 children going across the border to closer schools, but it's 90%.
Okay.
The narrative is clearly wrong.
All right then. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. The capacity of the receiving school. There was a very relevant point about discretionary decisions made on admissions, etc., etc. So equity. Yeah.
Should we know the capacity of the English schools or not?
Marianne, did you hear that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
But, no, I'm asking Marianne now. Do you know what?
Sorry.
I'm not sure who's the other 2 closest schools. Is Trevonin is the one. Who's the other one?
Salatin.
The Latin. Okay.
And Llanarmon Dyffryn Ceiriog is as close to some as Latin.
We can find those capacities.
And why? Yes, spare capacity, isn't it? But and why the children that are leaving the catchment for Welsh medium education being left out of this report?
Yeah, Angela, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, in the proposed receiving schools, I would like to see the pupil numbers per year group now and what the potential on them. So if all of these pupils moved across, what's the impact on the receiving school? So that little chart in the report, we've got charts telling us how many children in Bro Cunliffe in each year group there are, but we've just got a total number for the proposed receiving school, Llanrydder. So I would like to know how many pupils in each year group and how this school is going to impact those numbers for those classrooms. Because I have got a concern that we've heard that Bro Cunliffe, that the children are being taught in one class 1 day a week at the moment, and we've been given reasons why that's detrimental. But most of the week they're taught in 2 classes, so they're moving to a school also potentially where it'll still be 2 classes. 2 classes is better than 1 whole class 1 day a week. It's not great, is it? So what is the impact on that?
But the individual year groups working round tables will be bigger, because I mean at the moment you've only got 2 kids in year 3 and 2 kids in year 5.
Well, that information, in my opinion, needs to be in the report so it can be clearly seen. Yeah. That's just
and as Marianne said, the 1 year group in Llanrydder is already 20. I think she said it's 22 or 20, and with 6 make 26. That's almost a class by itself in that year group. If they're all, I know they're all not going to be the same stream, but
and can the proposal make the if it happens, the land use is presumed to be community use rather than an asset retrieval? I don't know if that's something, if it goes through to that extent, that's the presumed use of it.
We can talk about the concerned about the impact on the community, can't we? So that's what we can put in the report to the cabinet. We're concerned about the impact to the community, and consideration should be given to to negate that, isn't it, in relation to green space, etc. Would that be a good way of putting it?
Could we say the community get first option?
Yeah, that's
okay. That sounds good. Those are all the notes I've made now.
So stuff around the condition score, aged condition score of the school needs that updated.
About that, and saying about the data needs to be up to date on it. Yeah. Okay. Good. Are we happy? We conclude that there now.
Yeah, would I be right in saying, Chair, that once this does go through for consultation, then we can reconsider it at the future scrutiny meeting?
What's the usual process on that, Marianne? Does it come back to us again before it'll come back to us again before it goes to cabinet, doesn't it?
It no longer does. Do you remember in the past we skipped this this part of it. So the scrutiny would come in when the consultation report is published to test whether the consultation process has been done correctly and any issues raised. But now we bring a proposal forward to scrutiny early so that you can input into the development of the proposal, so to speak, and check whether the proposal itself is solid.
Okay, so Gareth was suggesting that we should see it again. Could that be a possibility?
I think we could discuss with Councillor Pete and the leader.
I have no objection to it coming back to scrutiny whatsoever. The comments I made to you, Councillor Gwynfor, was when I was in your position. I felt that scrutiny wasn't giving an input into the decision-making process. We were just taking a position and looking at whether the process had been completed. And I reaffirm that. I think today is much more positive in terms of ensuring that what officers are bringing forward to Cabinet is sound, rather than just what I implemented when I was in your position, which was checking the process had been completed appropriately. Because we were putting the input at a time when there really wasn't an opportunity to change the first decision that Cabinet are making. But I've no problem bringing this back to scrutiny for you to look at the responses that come out of the consultation, if there are substantive responses that come through. No problem whatsoever.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that.
I think that's particularly important, as there are limited options within this report. I'm quite certain that other options will come forward. So which is a bit of a frustration that they're not contained within this report. So it's imperative that if there's other options coming forward, that scrutiny has a look at them and officers can have a SWOT analysis of those additional options.
Okay, that's it. That's where we're concluding. Thanks, Marianne, Irene, and Nancy. Thank you. We understand the difficulty of these matters, and thank you for being so candid in your answers and helping us in any comments that we've had. So thank you all. Great stuff. Members, we now go to, we'll find an agenda now. I've got so many papers here. We now go to item 6, a Trochi working group update. Bryn mentioned this previously in our pre-meet on Monday, that he hadn't finalised putting the report together on the working group and whatever. But do we want to have a quick conversation on it?
Yeah. Yeah, happy to do that much. Sorry, Kath, could you tell me the summary we started putting together, has that been shared, or anybody can tell me, I suppose?
No, I haven't shared anything because
all right, sorry. Okay, so yeah. Well, just for the sake of the other members of scrutiny, I think we've met in February, March, April, May, and June. We've covered a variety of topics. We started off with definitions.
Sorry, Bryn, you've got a bit of an echo there, so if people could be careful that they're not interrupting Bryn, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we started off with definitions because so many of these discussions get bogged down about people talking about different things, and basically the Trochi language immersion, which most of the people present have got a very good idea what it is, but basically it boils into 3 categories. Trochi cynnar early immersion, which is what happens in every Welsh medium primary school. They come in into reception and acquire their Welsh from that early age. Trochi hwyr, late immersion, which is what has been offered 4 times in Maldwyn. Probably, I'm not sure about what the situation down south. I don't think it's only the 4 times in the north, isn't it? Which is where groups of primary school children of a variety of ages, from years 2 to year 7, get gather together in a centre. It's been twice in Ysgol Dafydd Llwyd in Newtown, once in Ysgol Llanfyllin and once in Ysgol Bro Cerenion. And they have an intensive 6 to 10 week course. And then from that situation, they move into a Welsh medium provision, either at another primary, well, usually generally at another primary school. And then the third kind of trochi provision is trochi pontio, which is transition immersion, which happens at the end of year 6, enable them to go into the Welsh medium stream, or not directly into a Welsh medium stream, but ultimately into a Welsh medium stream in the secondary school that they're transferring to. That has only happened in Llanfyllin about 2011 to 2016, I think it happened. I think it finished in 2016. And successful to an extent. It's very successful in Welsh medium schools. I'm thinking of Flintshire and Wrexham and possibly other parts of Wales, but it did succeed in Llanfyllin, but it's always more difficult in a dual stream school. So those definitions came out of the first meetings, and then we started looking at the finance, because there was a misunderstanding perpetuated by some officers about the funding for Welsh medium education. At some point, I think it was true that you only needed 15 Welsh pupils in a class to make the class viable financially, but whereas or at least that was the perception, that you needed 30 kids in a English medium stream to a class to make that class viable. That was the impression given by people, but having raised this back and forth and trying to get a better understanding on it, it came to be apparent that certainly under the new current funding formula, it's not true at all. And there is support for small schools or small streams, but that funding is equal to the English medium as it is to the bilingual forms. And then what the question is, what happens to this money? So quite possibly a dual stream school will get that extra funding for both the English stream and the bilingual stream. So it's very beneficial for the financing of a dual stream school, but how that money is spent once it gets to the dual stream school is anybody's guess, because it's not hypothecated. And like I say, it's there. It helps the small English classes as much as it helps small Welsh classes. So the big question really is, how is school financing promoting the aims of Powys County Council and Welsh Government to increase the number of bilingual pupils in the county? And I know they were advertising for members of the for new members of the finance, what do they call it? Finance panel?
Formula Working Group and Schools Forum, Councillor Bryn.
Diolch, Nancy. And I was trying to urge people to get on it with an understanding of Welsh medium education. I don't know. I didn't have time to be on any more committees, and I don't think my financial acumen is probably good enough for the job anyway. But I don't. Has that panel been created, Nancy?
Councillor Bryn, we've just finalising the representatives that have put themselves forward for the schools forum, and that schools forum will commence again the new academic year in October, with the appointment of the chair and a vice chair from the schools community. We'll start to look at then members to come out of that for a formula review group, which, you know, we always, when we look at these formula review groups, we're looking for representation across our schools in Powys to make sure that we can get that representation from large Welsh medium, small Welsh medium, large dual stream schools. So, you know, so we've got everybody's views around the table. We've got a longer lead-in time agreed with the Education Service and Anwen Orals really, and Dr. Richard Jones around having changes working towards an implementation date of April 26.
So it gives us, that's what we're going to be working to now when we commence the formula review. And we'll be looking for school members to come back with views from the school community of the clusters they represent and schools that they represent, to feed their ideas in for reviews and for the authority to go away with a set of actions to bring back a model on the impact of the formula. And of course, as part of that, then we'll also need to be aware of the fact that it's there's a set amount of a pot given to us currently of funding agreed by the local authority to its schools. So you've got two things, how you distribute that formula will be what we'll be looking at, really. If there was anything in terms of any extra that schools come forward with in terms of that, obviously would have to form part of the council's finance resource model. But we'd be working within the distribution, looking at the distribution of the formula, and then ultimately how that lands then with individual schools and the impact on those schools.
That sounds promising. Thank you very much. Yeah. But okay, we haven't had recommendations coming forward from the Trochi working group yet, but it really needs to be considered by that funding group how Trochi can be promoted and made accessible for any child across Powys, and conveniently, not having to drive halfway across the county to get that experience, which is a massive issue around our neck of the woods. I sincerely wish Ysgol Ukrainian all the success in the world. I think it's fantastic that they're on that pathway, but almost all kids in Montgomery will have to pass a more convenient school to get there. But anyway, that's the finance, which is going to influence the effectiveness of Trochi. It does need to be looked at and formulated for in some extent. And then we had meetings with head teachers, discussed to see if they had any vision about the way forward with respect to Trochi at secondary level. And also we had a visit to Ysgol Ukrainian to see Trochi in action, which was, it's worth seeing. It's anybody can get an opportunity to do that. It just gives it does give a better fundamental understanding of what the potential of this process, and what's important. I hope we come out when I eventually start getting this report written out, is to demystify the notion of Trochi. It's not rocket science. It's obvious when you think about it. It's the way we all acquire language. So it just needs to be made possible for kids in secondary school. So I do apologize for not getting it more written out. Kath has got copious notes from all those meetings that we've held. I think it'd be fair to say there's room for more members on the subgroup if anybody wants to come along on the journey until we get this report concluded. Gwynfor and Aled, appreciate any comments you have to follow up on that. That's a verbal summary of what I was hoping to have produced.
No, I think it's just important to see where we are. Give an opportunity now for anybody to add anything to that, or we'll continue to progress and get a report and recommendations made. Really. So, anybody got anything to say on that?
I agree with what Bryn was saying, but the visit to Carignan just highlighted the unfairness of the provision across Powys. Brilliant. There's a good example of something, but it really does need to be available to all who wish to take part in or wish to have their education through Welsh in the future. But thanks.
Yeah, Angela. You're trying. We can see you trying.
You're on mute, Angela. Oh.
I lost my cursor. It's trouble with two screens, isn't it? Yeah, just to say, I'd be happy to join that working group, Bryn. I've got pupils in Raider Primary School who've gone through the Trochy system. It's really worked well for them, and the parents are pleased with it too. So yeah, I'd be interested to learn more.
Oh, that would be great, because we're a bit North Walian up here. we could do some mid-rail balance there.
You speak for yourself, Bryn. I'm a Mid-Walian. Okay, we'll leave that there then. Yeah, and thanks, Angela, for that offer. You'll be more than welcome to come on and share in the experience. Okay, that takes us to the next agenda item, which is our work program. Quickly mentioned the other day about how it had been decimated in relation to different things, and I will be writing to Dr. Richard, etc., that our scrutiny program was set in stone and it's been destroyed really for different angles really. The one thing which I did want to speak at today was about the school transport policy, which I briefly spoke about on Monday. It doesn't look as like that we're going to get that back into us now, which is disappointing. They've got to fulfill their statutory duties, and that will continue to move as it does. Councillor Pete, if you're still in the meeting, I was interested to hear your comments in relation to us bringing back the consultation, and you said the scrutiny should be given an opportunity in decision making. We haven't surrounding our school transport policy, and I'm fully aware that it's not in your portfolio, but it's so linked with education, and for us not to have a comment on it has been disappointing really, and it's carrying on regardless. And you can understand the confusion we've had over Broke-on-Clythe today because we're unsure about it. So I did mention on Monday whether we put together a few points, and Councillor Lucy have contributed by email, and Councillor Bryn also. So do we make some comments in relation to that, so that it's there for the when they consider the consultation outcomes? Do we make some comments, or do we just follow forward on Councillor Lucy's and Councillor Bryn's comments? Councillor Angela.
Yeah, hi. So I was very disappointed that we didn't have a joint scrutiny session on this. I think our committees have worked well together in the past, and I don't really see that should have been a big issue. But anyway, it came before ERC. I'm very grateful to Councillor Gwynfor for coming along to the ERC meeting. But I agree, we none of us had enough time to digest the papers, really. They seem to come out very late. I think it might be useful. I certainly intend attending the cabinet meeting next week, because I've got some feedback on one of the other papers, and I'll be doing feedback on this one. And I just wonder, Gwynfor, should we do it together jointly, or would you rather the committees send their comments separately?
I really don't know. I'm just totally confused with it all, to be honest with you, because we should have been involved in that decision making before they put a consultation together. I think that's where the fault lies, and now what they're consulting on is specific officer comment, and I'm not sure it's the direction it should be going, really, to be honest with you. Councillor Gareth has put his hand up.
Yeah, I might be slightly stronger than that, Gwynfor. My view is, I thought it was the council's responsibility to develop policy, and I would actually say the own school transport policy should be developed by Councillor Pete, come to us for consultation, and then it's for the highways and the transport unit to actually deliver transport to meet that policy. It seems backwards to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I still would like to have clarification around what is a definition, or what information they've had to define what the closest suitable school is, because I would say that all maintained schools are suitable schools.
But I think actually, isn't that what's coming out?
No, aren't they proposing to actually say we're going to transport to your catchment school?
Yes, it used to say suitable, and I think my understanding was it used to say suitable, and that was the bit that was the grey area, if I've understood it correctly, and that they're taking out that word suitable school, because as you say, how do you define it?
I think it used to say closest suitable, so nearest suitable or catchment school.
Yes, it did.
You know,
and the phrase suitable school caused too much trouble.
Yeah, but the underpinning issue of that was nearest school, closest school. So you can have a catchment where you've got home addresses that aren't closest to the catchment school.
It's being changed to catchment school instead of closest suitable school.
Which is, you know, and we've just had a discussion about Ascobo Camp Life. And we've had answers given to us that if pupils went to their closest school in England, they'd have transport, which in my mind is not in line now with the revised transport policy that they're consulting on. So, you know, I've got no idea what we're doing. And I think, you know, and why is highways driving a school policy? They are there to implement the policy and not. I can understand what John is doing, what John Forsey is doing. It's all about trying to find the most efficient routing. But there's going to be, you know, if you take, there's going to be several school transformational processes going forward down the border, and it's going to, you know, it could cause a drive on. You know, I know Councillor Anne Williams, Councillor Bev Bainham's got real concerns around the areas around Preston, Knighton, etc. You know, I've got concerns what happens when, you know, if the site becomes a Welsh medium, what happens to the two English medium schools I've got in my area? You know?
Okay, we'll go through all these comments and then we'll try and perceive a comment where what are we going to do about it? Councillor Aled.
On mute, Aled.
You're still on mute.
I'm not sure who decides what goes to which scrutiny group. There used to be a clearing group of chairs of scrutiny who decided who looked at something, and it wasn't up to officers who made that decision. I think that you need to be really clear about that. That it should be scrutiny chairs that decide which scrutiny group or joint group, or, you know, in a way, if you're looking at transport, that's about how many wheels are on the bus. But when you're looking at, you know, which is suitable school and that sort of language, it's for Education Scrutiny Committee. Angela brings a lot of expertise to both committees. But my main gripe is there were a couple of motions to full council that asking for transport policy to have greater flexibility, school transport policy to have greater flexibility to support parental choice. It was clearly backed by council at least twice. My frustration is that what's been proposed is going in the opposite direction, and I'm not sure how that can be addressed.
Okay, Councillor Gwynn.
Yeah, like you said, I fed my feedback to you, but you said you didn't get the opportunity to present my points at the ECR committee.
No, I didn't.
Is this the forum to raise them, or do we forward my email to the to whoever is
yeah, no, I understand that, Brent. No, just hold fire on that, and let's just take Councillor Lucy's point.
Yeah, sorry, Gwen, but mine was really just following up on what Al had said, but just to confirm that the date of the last motion that went to council was October 2022, and it had council's full support that we should have greater flexibility.
Thank you. Okay, members, you've obviously seen there's some confusion around. Oh, go on, Gareth.
Yeah, can I just make one more? And I don't know if this is correct or not, but perhaps Angela will correct me if I'm wrong. But I understand from ECR on Monday, was it Monday or whenever ECR discussed it, that one of the office said that there will be, they will have the power to amend the policy. Well, sorry, if they're saying that officers have got a power to amend policy, is dead against what I believe a council should be doing when it's the members that should be deriving policy, and it's the officers that implement that policy. And they're talking about around discretion. Now, I go back a long time under school transport.
Yeah.
And part of the issue historically has been that there used to be committees of members that decided on individual policies, around areas, but that was then never reviewed. You know, I'll use Frankspeech as an example. Frankspeech school's been in the catchment area for Landred, then built back to Landred and back to built over a period of time, you know, and in some ways the best and most suitable process is transport to the closest school, because that is a fixed known continuum, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. It doesn't change, does it?
No, that's the word I'm looking for. Right, thank you.
And then you could have a plus or minus a bit of around the edges. You could have a bit of flexibility. But
yeah.
So, Councillor Ansler.
Yeah, so the wording they used in the document, just going back to my notes, is that the word discretionary opportunities. So we sort of asked the officer for more, and it sounded like the officers had discretionary opportunities and that they would let the relevant pupils know. So that was a concern in the group, because we felt...
You rub my back, I'll rub yours.
Well, it's open. However, to be fair to the officer, they did say that, you know, sometimes difficult decisions have to be made and that it is their job to make them. And I actually support that. You know, sometimes I do wonder whether officers are tempted to hide behind policy. And I was reminded in a meeting recently that policy is a guideline, not a tram line. So in that respect, there will always be grey areas. And officers do have to make those difficult decisions. And the officer said they do make them on a regular basis, and we only hear about the bad ones or the ones people are unhappy with. I guess my question would be to Councillor Peat, what involvement did he have as a portfolio holder for education? Does he get involvement in this policy? And if not, should he have? Because it's clear that we feel that school transport sits very closely and needs to align to school policy itself.
Admissions policy and stuff.
Admissions policy, yeah.
I'm not sure if Councillor Peat is still with us. Oh, yes, he is.
Yes, he's there.
Councillor Peat. Yeah, and to be fair, the officer that was giving the presentation said that it was probably more linked with education than transport. She actually said that herself. Are you coming in, Councillor Peat?
Yeah, I'm coming in. I have had a degree of input into this, but it has been largely transport driven. The questions around Welsh medium in particular were ones that I incorporated. My main questions really have been around whether the proposals in terms of the move to catchment actually fit with the learner transport measure. And I had the assurances that they did. Transport's desire to align with catchments is very much so that parents can know that when they're applying to a catchment school, that if they are the relevant distance from that school, they will get the transport to it, and to provide a flow route through both to primary and to secondary, so that there's no ambiguity there. But I'm still waiting to see the responses to the consultation. It's not one of mine. I'm not sure whether the closing date is last weekend or next weekend. I just know it's imminent. Before taking a final view on what is coming forward.
12th is the closing date, isn't it?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, can I come in? Really interesting conversation going on. Since I'm not sure how many of you know, but since I've become head of translation and all of that in June, on my job description I've got interface with transport and admissions. Okay, so it all sort of sits under me going forward. So I've been although I've learned from Gareth over the years, way back when, I've been sort of observing and looking at how all the different components are working together, how transport and admissions, transformation and everything are coming together in terms of this, you know, what we're talking about is planning school places, isn't it, in terms of, and all the different moving parts. We are working closely with transport. We were involved to a degree in the whole process now. But I think as we go forward now, there's more to do in terms of operating as a single council service. Parents out there don't need to know, you know, it's transport unit or it's school service or whatever. But there is a job of work to be done to bring us all together so that the customer has the best experience possible. So there's work going on behind the scenes as well in terms of the online portal, so that the transport and the admissions come together, so parents know what we, you know, they don't have to apply twice or apply for transport twice, and the information is all there. So there is a job work to be done around improving that, which I will be focusing on. Okay. That's it for me.
Okay, Councillor Bryn.
Yeah, okay. I was going to give Pete's reference to making things less ambiguous. And well, two of my observations on the transport policies. One, when it comes to secondary school choices, there's a sentence at the end of section 2.1, paragraph 1, about the provision of transport. This is to Welsh medium secondary school provision, will be carefully considered if they're outside the catchment. Well, I would want to see the wording of that. The provision of transport will be awarded in the case of secondary school provision, if that's what they choose to go for Welsh medium secondary provision. And the other thing is, well, there's a few things, but I'll definitely forward them to Peter and Marianne. I hope they'll, because I've suggested some alternative paragraphs and additional paragraphs. But the other thing is, when we use the term Welsh medium schools, please, could we make, seeing as the policy document and open to the public and stuff like that, could we make the, instead of just Welsh medium, bilingual outcome Welsh medium? Because that really does says what the tin contains, because we have a battle to explain people that there's no equivalence between Welsh medium and English medium. The results are very different. You're totally bilingual if you have a Welsh medium education. You're not if you only have the English medium education. So it would really help if banners, headlines, when they say, well, section 2.1 Welsh medium, say section 2.1 bilingual outcome Welsh medium. And then that message goes home, because it's, you know, I think it's important.
The points Bryn is making are points which I'm adamant we should have had an opportunity to comment on prior to it going out to consultation, because they were very specific on what they wanted to consult on and what changes should have been made. These are changes which we could have included in that consultation document, which would have been the proper way of doing it, really. So I don't think Bryn has got any other option now but to feed his comments into the consultation or into Marianne, really, isn't it? Angela made the offer of myself going to cabinet, but I'm in your hands, committee, how you want to do it, or do you want to comment? Or my view is that we're confused on where we stand with it, really. Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, I'm still going to harp back onto it. I still like to see that documentation that says what is it that you can actually define a catchment school and then not transport to the closest school. But my understanding, unless it's changed significantly since I left 6 years ago, nearest suitable school, I think it used to say nearest suitable or catchment school.
Yeah.
You know, a nearest suitable and the nearest suitable. So in effect, if I was going online, I put my postcode in, my GS, my house in, that would actually give me my catchment school, my closest school for both English and Welsh, and it should be saying you get transport to one or both. It's a simple process on GIS, really.
Councillor Pate.
I think there's two things I'd pick up on. This is a proposal paper that's time specific, and the time that it would have been going to scrutiny and the like was the time when we were in the middle of the general election purdah.
No, Pete, we can't continue.
Before it went out to consultation, what has happened subsequent to that is something has come to ERC. What I would encourage people to do now is to use the consultation to submit these concerns, but I would also encourage this committee to put together a paper to submit to Cabinet, because I'm looking at the forward work programme and I haven't actually seen when this is coming back to Cabinet for the final decision on the forward work programme.
Could I also say this paper has been out to consultation mainly during the school holidays? If it's going to, and you expect the governing bodies to respond to that, my school won't have a governing body meeting now for about 6 weeks. You know, every school community should have the opportunity to respond to this consultation. And our council can actually do consultation on a significant an issue that has significant impact on pupils' education during the summer holiday is beyond my belief.
I made that point in Angela's committee the other day, and I also made the point that it had been advertised on social media once, and following that meeting, I think it's been advertised 3 times, and the consultations are ending tomorrow. So, yeah, I agree, Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, Councillor Gwynber, we did make the point in the meeting that we actually asked, and I think they sent it out that day while we were meeting, that the social media posts be reshared, that the consultation, we also asked that the schools be informed, because myself as a school governor, I certainly hadn't had any notification through my school that the consultation was taking place, and we felt it was the school community who should be the main people made aware of the consultation, and for the reasons, as Gareth has said, the schools were closed, weren't they? But hopefully those notifications went out to schools on Monday, and that would have given parents at least a couple of days to have a go at it. But yeah. Also, Gwynver, I think I'm correct in saying that John Forsey said he would be very happy for the paper to come back to scrutiny. That wasn't a commitment that it would, because I don't know about the time frames.
I had a quick conversation with Kath today. It doesn't look as if we have an opportunity to consider the responses to the consultation now, with how it's tabled for Cabinet and any diary that we have, really. So, yeah, Councillor John actually said that it wasn't a decision that he would make. He'd got no problem coming to any scrutiny committees, even education scrutiny, but it was Matt Perry that said it wouldn't come to education.
So is that the decision of an office, or should that be a decision of the Cabinet member?
I'm in agreement with you, Councillor Gareth, in every aspect, but we're in this situation now, so what do we do?
Well, I'm going to go and see their teacher in my school. I've got a meeting with their teacher in my school now at 5 o'clock. So,
yeah, but it has this policy has got massive effect on all schools involved, and they haven't an opportunity to consult on it unless they picked up on something over the school holidays.
Maybe committee should write to whoever's responsible and ask them to extend the consultation period. Simple as that.
Well,
and
the
then,
responsible person, isn't that James? He's the leader. He can instruct.
Exactly. And extend the consultation and promote it a bit more. I'm not sure what timelines they have to hit. This stuff is such slow. It has to be a whole. Is it a clear year before any changes?
I can't remember now.
Or I think it's a whole, you have to have a academic year clear before you can implement the changes. It's really,
they've already failed in that. Then because academic year has already started.
Yeah, but
I need to double check.
I think the timescale, it's going to Cabinet in October for implementation next September.
Are you sure? Okay, if you say.
I don't know. That's how I understand it.
Okay.
It says.
Okay. Is it your wish that we write to the leader and ask for him to extend the consultation?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my view.
Yeah, we'll do that before next Tuesday then, and we'll circulate the document to yourselves before we send it then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll copy. We'll send it to the leader and the portfolio Paul, which is Councillor Jackie.
Gwynfor, just Kath has said in the chat that the cabinet meeting for school transport will be on the 24th of September.
Okay. So is the legislation 12 months then or not?
But it can't be 12 months. It could,
No.
in my head, I've got the end of October in my head, but that's only in my head.
My understanding is it's early October because I queried when the timelines were being discussed whether we could fit the entire consultation window into the new academic year, but we didn't have enough time in order to meet the deadline for it to be implemented for the next academic year. That's my understanding as to why the consultation started during the school holidays.
And what's the financial implication of missing another financially academic year?
I don't know, but I think there was a desire to try and align this so that there was a firmed up policy before they went out to tender.
Bearing in mind that we're told that the only reason the changes have come about is because we is in relation to what we passed in full council. And to some things, they're blaming us for an increasing cost because they've said that this report has cost £50,000, and it was down to councillors agreeing more flexibility. That this is why the changes have come about.
They've done the exact opposite. Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, no.
We did ask for greater clarity as well, and that they've gone for the greater clarity part of the motion, but not the greater discretion.
There's clearly
Okay.
clarity in this committee.
I think we've had a conclusion on this now. We're writing to the leader and the portfolio holder. And just out of courtesy, Pete, because we think you're involved in it, we'll include you in that correspondence.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Okay, this is a discussion in our work program. Is there anything else anybody would like to add to the work program, or any comments they want to make on the work program?
Sorry, Chair, this is my fault. I should have checked this. Have we got the school budget deep dives on the program at all concerning those reports?
I can't bring it up at this moment in time for some reason, so if somebody could help me with that, I'd be grateful.
I can't see it.
We haven't got the deep dives on per se, Councillor Gareth, but we can put them on. I can liaise with the finance team.
Yeah, well, it's something that we've raised a concern about before, isn't it? So,
Well, I would say it's mostly one of the most risky element of the council's finances across the board.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. We'll get that added at some point, or attempt to get it added at some point.
Catherine and Sarah's got their hands raised, Chair.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't looking at that. Catherine, oh, welcome back, Catherine. I'm sorry. I carried on regardless without inviting you back in. So well done, Kath, for remembering to do that. Catherine.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know whether I could see whether there was an ALN sort of update. I'd be keen on there being a TUVI, like an analysis of the working of TUVI system and how schools are implementing it, how it's working. Knowing from on the ground, I know there are a few tweaks and some great stuff, but also things that maybe aren't working so well with the processes particularly. So I wonder whether it was time, now it's been a couple of years, to have a little bit of a review of the system.
Yeah, no, I would be content with that.
There was a very interesting section on one of the Women's Hours programs on Radio 4 on the last few days around about SEND and ALN funding, and now it's a battle for those parents.
Okay.
It's a massive issue.
And there was a very articulate 17-year-old girl on there who'd got ASD, and she was an amazing speaker. I think it might have been yesterday, actually. Or day
Yesterday
before.
morning, yeah.
Yeah.
I was driving at the time.
Yeah, she was an amazing young lady. But
we do work on this consistently, so yeah, it's a very valid suggestion. I'm going to bring Margaret in first because I'm guessing, Margaret, you're going to add to that conversation.
sorry, yes, I really feel with the funding switch to schools and all that's happened, I think this committee needs to keep a very, very close eye on the developments of ALN and the impact it's having on children. I could write you a list of things, loads of things that I think we need to have more information about. But that, I think, to have it on the programme is vital.
Okay.
And updates on quite a regular basis from that point of view, purely because you know the situation, and with the money devolved to schools, etc., etc. Well, I think this committee has to think, what impact is it having on the children, and how are we monitoring that and measuring that? And as a committee member, how are we ensuring that we are providing as the best opportunities for children?
Yeah, point noted. Yeah, certainly needs to be added to the calendar. Sarah.
Hey all, sorry, camera's still not working. You can probably see me vaguely waving
Just
in the
about.
background, yeah. I just wondered if I could add to Councillor Gareth's point about the deep dives.
Yeah.
Could that also include the swap reports that we have asked for numerous times?
I know it's a persistent request from yourself, isn't it, Sarah? Yeah, but a relevant point. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Everybody happy? Good. Well, it's been a lot longer meeting than which I thought it was going to be, but that's a good outcome really, because it means that we're discussing things at great length. Happy for you all to stay on when we finish, just to have an informal debrief. Thank you for your attendance today. Just a reminder, we do have some joint scrutiny tomorrow. Angela's kindly agreed to chair that, so perhaps the meeting won't be as long as it is when I'm in charge. So yes, a joint scrutiny, I believe that's 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So reminder.
I'm going to have to disappear, Winford, because I've got this meeting with the head teacher.
Okay. Yeah, well, again, it's only if people want to have a quick informal chat once the recording's finishing. I'm more than happy to do that. So thank you for your attendance today. Been a useful meeting. Covered a lot of ground on a small agenda. So thank you very much for your contributions, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you stop
Thanks,
the
Chair.